This screencast is going to cover the process for Japanese American citizens after the Pearl Harbor attack. The information from this screencast comes from this particular book here. And what we're going to do is try to figure out the correct order. We've done this before in class. So we have A through M items here and 1 through 13. And what you want to try to do is figure out the first, second, third, fourth, all the way up to the 13th thing that happens using the list here. So if you believe the first thing that happens to the Japanese American citizens is A, then that would be your answer for number 1 would be A. So you are saying the first thing that happens is this, establishing a criterion to identify potential threatening Japanese American citizens using an established criteria. If you believe the second thing that happens is J, then you would just put HA here. So we did this before. The only difference is now we're looking at another group of people. So I'm going to try to help you out this time around. The first thing that happens is going to be this one, letter E. So said an FBI report dated November 7th, 1941 that analyzes the potential threat of Japanese American citizens to the U.S. president. We could disregard, place a $ in question 2 because that will be if we're completing this in class, which we are not. If we are, then directions will be distributed for that particular component. So the reason why this one here is important is because if you go back to when we did this for the Jewish citizens in Germany, we talked about the intentionalist and the cumulative debate. This one is actually going to be even more of a heated debate because we don't have a genocide of the Japanese American citizens that takes place during World War II. However, there has been a lot of criticism around the United States government decision to place Japanese American citizens into internment camps. And that's the whole point of this particular activity, is it gets you to think about that particular debate. So some of those questions are going to come up again. Why were the Japanese feared and or rescued? It's talking about the genocide debate. So the first thing that's going to happen is going to be, as I said, letter E. And the reason why that's significant is because the second thing that happens is actually D, the Pearl Harbor attack. So this immediately raises a question, E and D. So why in November of 1941, before the Pearl Harbor attacks, is the United States doing this? Why are they starting to analyze the potential threat of Japanese American citizens? Why is the FBI reporting to the president? Why is there any speculation that the Japanese American citizens are a potential threat? So that brings up the issue about intent. The third thing that happens is A. They're going to establish a criterion to identify potential threatening Japanese American citizens using an established criteria. So at this point, they're trying to figure out the potential threat among these Japanese American citizens. I'm making this part up, but if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they're trying to figure out of these 5 people, let's say it's maybe these 2 here, they have to figure out a way to determine, which of those individuals happen to be the potential threat. The fourth thing that happens is I. Non-Japanese Americans fear Japanese and target them. Teachers forbid Japanese American students from participating during the pledge. Library books are not loaned. So this one is interesting here because this is not the government. The debate here, does government have to be the only agency that's going to commit genocide? What about the people? What about when the people are doing what they're doing to individuals and committing, potential acts, in this particular case, targeting Japanese American citizens? If the government doesn't step in and say, listen, you can't do that. Here come the government authorities and they're going to prevent this individual from harming this individual. If the government does do that, then I guess everything's fine. But if the government is allowing this to take place, then the government is indirectly involved. So immediately we need to think of the Night of Broken Glass in Germany when Jewish people were targeted. In that particular event, the German government didn't do anything. So where do you place the blame? Do you place it on the people? Do you place it on the government? Does government have an obligation to protect the natural rights of the people? So that's what makes this one significant, because these are people operating on their own, and they're making that decision to do what they're doing. So when we go back to the PowerPoint slide, that's why I included this section here. Keep moving. This is a white man's neighborhood. I would not feel comfortable being this individual's neighbor if I was Japanese, Japanese American. So the government seems to be doing this because for their own protection from people like this, as well as from the government's point of view, as they don't necessarily know if every Japanese American citizen is going to hold an allegiance to Japan or to the United States. Look at this particular family here. Are they better off staying in their home where they're going to face potential harassment, or placing these individuals in internment camps? So that seems to be the issue with regard to this one for debate. Here's a map that includes all of the camps. And yeah, so that's pretty much it on this one. We want to make sure that you continue the order and you figure out the how you feel about this particular issue. The United States, did we commit genocide? Well, we didn't kill members of the group. I don't know if we caused serious bodily or mental harm, maybe mental harm. Did we inflict on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its destruction? No. Did we impose measures intended to prevent births within the group? No. And did we transfer children? So this means, did we assimilate? Did we take Japanese American citizens and assimilate them and make them Americans? Well, that would just be bizarre because they're Japanese American citizens. The people that were placed in these internment camps were American citizens. So in comparison to like Nazi Germany, well, Germany's treatment of the Jewish or the Romani, they killed members of that group. They definitely caused bodily harm through experiments. They inflicted, calculated to bring about its physical destruction. They sterilized individuals. They imposed measures to prevent birth, sterilization, experimentation, and I don't necessarily know. Well, if you look at the German Lebensborn program, yeah, they also did this. So the Nazis would be guilty on every count, whereas the United States government did not seem to commit these aspects of that genocide definition. So that's the task for this particular sheet. Good luck.